Michael had been the star since high school, athletic, loud, and impossible to ignore. At every family gathering, he would dominate conversations with exaggerated stories of victories or career achievements. Sophia was the pride of the household, brilliant, polished, and constantly praised by my mother as everything a daughter should be. And me, whenever I managed to achieve something, my mother brushed it aside. That's just luck. Andrew, if I stumbled, her words came sharper. See, I told you not to expect too much. She said it with a sweet smile as though giving me advice, but it cut me deeper than outright insults. Over time, those comments built a cage around me, one where I was expected to stay small. By the time I was in high school, Michael was already attracting college scouts. Sophia was winning scholarships, and I was working part-time jobs just to save a little cash. I thought being quiet and responsible might be enough, but in their eyes, quiet meant weak. I became used to fading into the background, a shadow in my own home. Years passed, and nothing changed. Michael landed a corporate job. Sophia was placed into a prestigious role with my father's help, and I was still branded as the broke one. They never asked what I was actually doing, never cared enough to look beyond the surface. They had written my story without ever listening to me. So I let them. I kept my real work, my side projects and investments hidden like a secret life. If they wanted to believe I was worthless, it was easier not to fight it. Then came that night, a lavish anniversary party for one of my mother's closest friends. Everyone was there. Extended relatives, neighbors, even people I hadn't seen in years. I almost skipped it because I knew exactly how it would go. Michael shining in the spotlight, Sophia basking in admiration, and me shrinking into the corner. Still, something inside me told me to show up. The moment I entered, I caught my mother's glare. Her lips tightened, as if my presence alone embarrassed her. She didn't wait for me to sit before striking. "Don't expect a real seat, Andrew. You're just the broke one." The words landed like a punch. My chest tightened, but I kept walking. Michael smirked, raising his glass. "Careful, everyone. He might try to pay with coupons." Laughter erupted. Every chuckle carved deeper into me. I wanted to vanish, to slip out before the night collapsed like it always did. And yet, something unexpected happened. Sitting 2 chairs away was Mr. Robert, Sophia's boss. He glanced at me, then down at his phone and froze. His eyes flicked back wide with recognition. He whispered something to his wife and then kept staring, not with pity, but with a strange mix of shock and curiosity. The laughter faltered. Conversations dimmed. For the first time in years, I felt a shift, subtle but undeniable. The night was no longer unfolding on my family's terms. The dinner unfolded just as I expected. As appetizers were served, Michael launched into a boastful monologue about his new car, a leased model, though he spoke as if he owned the dealership. Everyone humored him with polite nods. Sophia followed, speaking proudly about her big project, conveniently omitting that the role had been handed to her through our father's connections. Across the table, my parents glowed with pride, hanging on every word. When the conversation briefly turned to me, my mother intercepted smoothly. "Andrew is still figuring things out. He's always been a simple one, just needs more time." A ripple of awkward chuckles passed around the table. My jaw tightened, my hands gripping the edge of my chair, but I swallowed my words. I was used to being dismissed before I could even speak. Michael smirked, leaning back as if struck by a sudden memory. "Oh, do you all remember Andrew's little business attempt, selling discounted gadgets online or something? Didn't even last a season." Laughter erupted again, louder this time. Sophia covered her mouth, pretending to be polite, but the delight in her eyes betrayed her. Then came the wine service. The waiter approached with a bottle, but my mother raised a hand. "Don't serve Andrew any. He wouldn't know the difference anyway. Just give him water." The words sliced through me. The waiter froze, unsure. Michael broke the silence with another laugh, drawing Sophia in. I sat rigid, letting the humiliation settle over me like a heavy coat. Old memories surged, my mother, retelling stories of my mistakes, Michael turning private struggles into entertainment, my father's silence enabling it all. It was the same script recycled for years. But this night was different. Across the table, Robert wasn't laughing. His gaze lingered on me, steady and calculating. His phone glowed on the table, and I saw his wife lean in, her brows rising in surprise as she looked between the screen and my face. The laughter faltered. A hush crept in. Michael tried to rally, chuckling louder, but the energy had shifted. For the first time in years, I felt something stir inside me, presence. Later that night, I drove home in silence. Every insult replayed in my mind. Don't expect a real seat. He's still simple. Careful, he'll pay with coupons. Back in my apartment, I sat in the dark for hours, still in my suit, staring at the blank wall. I thought of the one time I had asked Michael for help with rent, how hard it had been to admit I was struggling after college, juggling 3 part-time jobs. I remembered his reassuring pat on the back, how grateful I'd felt. And tonight he weaponized it against me, parading my vulnerability as a joke. That betrayal cut deeper than all the laughter combined. The next morning, I opened my laptop and typed my own name into the search bar. Instantly, articles, interviews, and features filled the screen, proof of years of relentless effort, quiet wins, and business ventures that had actually thrived. Reading them was like breathing again after drowning. The world saw me even if my family chose not to. And I recalled Robert's expression, the recognition, the respect. Not pity, respect. In that moment, I understood I didn't need my family's validation anymore. I had my own worth, my own standing. Their laughter no longer defined me. After that night, something inside me shifted. For days, my family's voices echoed in my head, their laughter, their cutting remarks, but they no longer crushed me the way they used to. Because this time, another memory intruded Robert's stare. Not pity, recognition. One evening, my phone rang with an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Andrew. The voice was firm, steady. This is Robert. We need to talk. Your family doesn't know who you really are, but I do. His words stopped me cold. For the first time, someone outside my family had seen me clearly. We met at a quiet cafe. Robert shook my hand, his expression sincere. I know about the ventures you've built. I've heard your name mentioned in investment meetings, but I never connected it to you until that dinner. I stayed silent, letting him continue. You've created something remarkable. If your family knew, they wouldn't treat you the way they do. I gave a humorless smile. They don't want to know. They prefer the story where I'm the failure. That conversation stayed with me. Not just the validation, but the reminder outside their narrow lens I had worth. Real worth. From then on, momentum picked up. One of my quiet investments hit a breakthrough, and suddenly my name was circulating in industry news again. Invitations filled my inbox, conferences, panels, interviews. I moved into a new apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. Every morning I stood with my coffee watching the sunrise paint the towers gold, reminding myself how far I had come from the nights of instant noodles and unpaid bills. Meanwhile, my family began to notice my absence. My mother's texts carried guilt-laced scolding. Family is everything, Andrew. You never come around anymore. Michael left vague voicemails about catching up. Sophia's messages were sharper. Whatever you're doing, don't let it affect me at work. I ignored them. Not out of hate, but because for once I didn't need them. My silence was deliberate. It was power. Then Robert sent me something unexpected, an internal report from Sophia's company. The numbers told a different story than the one she bragged about at family dinners. The big project wasn't hers at all. She had simply taken credit for work handed to her. I read through the report, slowly realizing the implications. Sophia's image was built on smoke and mirrors, and she wasn't the only one. Michael, for all his bravado, was drowning in debt, living off credit cards and parental bailouts. My parents themselves were stretched thin, funding their favorite children's illusions while pretending to be secure. Piece by piece, the truth came into focus. The perfect family they flaunted was a fragile construct. And I, the so-called failure, was the only one standing on solid ground. I pulled out an old notebook and began to write. Not just the cruelties I had endured, but the truths I had uncovered, their weaknesses, their cracks. Not to wallow, but to see clearly. For the first time, I wasn't the victim. I held the narrative now. And deep down, I knew the time was coming. The next time I faced them, it wouldn't be as the family's punchline. It would be as the man who held the power of truth. A week later, my phone buzzed with a message from my mother. Family dinner this weekend. Everyone will be there. Don't embarrass us by not showing up. I almost laughed. They thought they were summoning me back into the same old play. To me, it was the perfect stage. When I entered the dining room, the scene was familiar. Michael, loud and boastful, clapping shoulders as if he owned the place. Sophia sat beside Robert, dressed to impress, eager to flaunt her perfect family. My mother scanned me top to bottom, lips tight as though she was hunting for evidence of failure. As soon as appetizers arrived, Michael smirked. Glad you made it, Andrew. We were worried you couldn't afford the gas. Laughter rippled around. I simply smiled and sipped my wine. Sophia chimed in sweetly. It's nice you showed up. You've missed so many dinners, people might think you're avoiding us. Robert frowned slightly at her words. That was my signal. I set my glass down carefully. I've been busy. Some projects demand more time than family dinners. Michael scoffed, leaning back. Projects. What is it this time, selling coupons on the street? This time the laughter was thin, uncertain. I unlocked my phone, scrolled, and placed it face up on the table, a headline shining brightly: multi-million-dollar acquisition led by Andrew Matthews. The room went silent. My mother squinted at the screen, trying to process. Michael leaned forward, forced to chuckle. Come on, that's just luck. You probably knew someone who knew someone. I tilted my head, calm. Maybe. Or maybe I worked for years while you were too busy mocking me to notice. Robert broke the silence, his voice steady. Andrew is right. I've seen the numbers. His work is impressive. If Michael had even half of his accomplishments, people would be talking about him instead. Michael's face flushed crimson. Words failed him. Sophia's fork clattered against her plate, her face pale. My mother finally spoke, her voice trembling. Why didn't you tell us? Why keep this from your family? I met her gaze. letting years of pain color my words. Because every time I tried, you turned it into a joke. You didn't want me to succeed. You wanted me to stay the broke one, the simple one, the shadow that made Michael and Sophia look brighter. Her face collapsed under the weight of truth. My father stared into his wine, his hand shaking. The rest of dinner limped on in uneasy silence. Michael clenched his jaw. Sophia avoided Robert's eyes, and my parents looked smaller than I'd ever seen them. When dessert came, I stood adjusting my jacket. All eyes followed me, not with ridicule, but with a heavy awareness. At the doorway, I turned once more. You wanted me invisible, but I'm not invisible anymore. Then I walked out, leaving them to sit with the wreckage of their own lies. That night, for the first time in my life, I felt free. I didn't need shouting matches or revenge schemes. The sharpest retribution was standing tall in my own success, forcing them to face the truth.